That's it. We are live. Today is Saturday, the 19th of January 2019. We're waiting for Patricia to join us. And of course, we have Jon TheMorgile. Hello, Jon.
Hey, excuse me. I'm sorry, hold on.
Good start, cough.
Goodness, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I've got like a residual like remnants of the flu that I came down with on Monday. I actually did a whole thing about it the other day on a live stream, but other than that, I'm doing very well, very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, so how are you after your experience? Not a very nice experience.
Yeah, no, well, I'll tell you what, it makes you appreciate the little things that we take for granted. So, like a regular sized toothbrush, unlimited toilet paper, private shower, a comfortable bed, um,
Blanket.
the warmth. Yeah, warmth. I'll tell you, warmth is a big one because at these places that they force you to live in, even though you're technically legally innocent, they keep them very cold. Like most of them, they keep extremely cold. Like you could hang meat in there, and without socks or long sleeve shirt or anything warm, and being technically not supposed to be laying around in the bed and not walking around with a blanket, you just freeze to death. Really, like it's terrible. And they say that they do it in order to keep down on germs, but I got sick twice while I was in different counties up and down the East Coast. So yeah, but that it makes
People are
you.
cold. It makes you a bit lethargic, doesn't it?
Well, I guess they do it, especially in Florida, because if it was really hot, if it was warm and comfortable, I think you would have a lot more fights and a lot more altercations. Because most of the time, if it's really cold, you're literally focused on trying to stay warm, and I guess it keeps the blood pressure regulated better. And, technically, I suppose it does cut down on bacteria and virus spreading, but at the same time, a lot of people have told me that it's a myth that cold weather causes the bug. But here's the thing, and this is what I surmise. We're warm-blooded, and our body regulates its own temperature. And so, if you're used to it being 90 or 100 degrees, your body doesn't have to waste much energy keeping your body temperature regulated. Although, if it's 50 degrees or 45 degrees, your body uses a lot of energy to keep your temperature up, and in doing so, you have less energy to spend on your immune system. And so, yeah, I'm a believer, and this is from personal experience, that cold weather indeed, you'll get more sick more often. You'll get sick more often in cold weather as opposed to warm weather. And although the bacteria and the viruses probably fare better in the warmer or damper climates, at the same time, it's sort of a six of one, half a dozen of the other, because if your immune system doesn't have the resources that it needs to fight infection, because you're spending so much energy on the exactly three small meals that you get a day, you're using that energy for regulating your body temperature more so. And also, when you're laying on steel or even concrete with a little thin mat underneath of you, you can feel that coldness seeping through. And I'll tell you, in some of these places, if you're just there overnight, like when you're being extradited, they don't give you a mat, and so like literally you could get hypothermia from laying on those sorts of things um, without any insulation.
Can I
And
just
so
say,
yeah.
you basically had come out, and then within so many hours, you were on a hangout, but you were actually drinking some orange juice, and that
Mhm.
to you was heaven. Was the orange juice was
Yeah.
heaven?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, because okay, where I was at for the majority of the time, you have your choice of drink, which is either tap water out of the faucet, which tastes exactly like mildew, or you can get tap water out of the faucet that's put in a big 5-gallon bucket, and they put this drink mix in it. It's kind of like a Crystal Light or like a Kool-Aid or something, but it's sugar free, and so that means that it has aspartame in it, and I believe that it has saltpeter in it. Because let's just say that as a man in the jail, your parts do not work as normal. Let's just leave it at that. But also, from what I was told, now I was not in the kitchen, but from what I was told by trustees, the giant bag of this lemonade, and it's always lemonade. Like they do not change it up. It's like a lemon flavored, really just Naz. Like if you ever had lemon Crystal Light, imagine that, but like 10 times worse. Okay,
Do you think?
and
Do you think that all these orange juices, the cheaper ones, they're just chemicals, and so basically that's what they're giving you is just a bunch of chemicals?
it is. Oh, it is. Definitely is just a bunch of chemicals. I don't think there's anything natural about it, but on the bags of this mix, there's a skull and crossbones on it because if you were to sit there and eat a cup of that stuff, I would imagine it would make you very sick because it's
Whoa!
very, yeah, very concentrated. And the food colorings in it, it looks a lot like Mountain Dew, so it's like a milky yellow. Um, they've been known to cause kidney problems, also problems with the genitals. Everybody knows that there's an old, I don't know about in the UK, but in America, there's an old running joke that Mountain Dew makes your man parts shrink. Right, and it's because of the dyes allegedly. Now, how true that is, I think it's the yellow number 5 is the one. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, it looks very similar to that. So it's no good for your kidneys. It's no good for your libido, and I believe that there's saltpeter in it because I wouldn't drink the stuff. Like I was drinking it at first because I asked a guy in there who was a diabetic whether it was sugar or whether it was aspartame, and he didn't know what aspartame was, but he said no, it's sugar. And about a week later, I talked to another guy about it, and no, it's absolutely aspartame. And yeah, so I quit drinking it and drank nothing but the mildew water because they don't give you any choice or warning, or like you would think that if they were using basically poisonous chemicals to feed you to drink, they would have to give you some sort of a warning or an option for something else. Now, the Seminole County was definitely different in that regard, because the whole time that I was there, never did I get a like a boiled egg or a glass of milk. It was all processed food. But when I was in, let's see, Spartanburg, for example, every day with breakfast they gave you an orange juice and a glass and a milk as like a boxes, and same thing with another one of them, and they would give you boiled eggs with breakfast. So it varies from place to place. Like it's not
Yeah,
any sort of consistency.
don't cross the source in the chat room says he's got a close friend who's a prison guard in Detroit, and basically it's got chemicals in, so the food's poison and it's on purpose. But can I just say
Yeah.
that Patricia's joined us? Patricia? She's
Hello.
gone.
I'm here. I'm here. Hi, John. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about you, Patricia?
I'm good, thanks. I'll let you continue. I'm listening.
Awesome. Oh, okay, good. Well, good to meet you.
He's a quiet one, but anyway, John. Yeah. So basically, you're eating poison. They don't care, do they? Anyway, so it's all about money.
Right. Well, and you know, I choose not to eat processed foods as much as I can. Like, and of course, this all comes down to budget. And if I have to, I will eat processed food because I'm not going to starve to death. But if I have a choice, I'm going to buy everything fresh and make it from scratch. And I think it's better that way. It's cheaper, and I enjoy cooking. So, but when you don't have a choice, and again, you have to drink water, and so yeah, they just poison you. You don't have a choice in it, and yeah, I feel like mind control starts with the diet, right? It really does. I mean, like you can control a person by either feeding them or taking away the necessities. And when you become reliant upon basically the state for your every meal, which is really all you have to look forward to every day, it sort of psychologically wears you down. And you have to sort of be strong and not allow that to affect your work ethic and stuff like that. And so for me, I think that it's, the experience made me stronger. And I'll tell you, 3 weeks or whatever is not a long time. But it is like every minute can be like an eternity. You know, time. I'm a proponent for the idea that time is relative. It's a state of mind, you know, or maybe that's not the best way to phrase it, but you get what I'm saying, where you can experience time differently. You know, I remember when I was hit by a car back in 2014 on my motorcycle. I can remember every instant of that up to the point where my face smashed in the guy's windshield. And that was right before I blacked out. But that the time from where I was going through a green light, then I saw like sort of out of my not peripheral because there was a guy going to do right on red coming from my right to turn the direction that I'm going. And I'm going through a green light in the right hand lane. And as I see him do this, the time from where I thought, oh man, I thought that guy was going to hit me, until the time where he clipped the back right side of my tire, until when my face smacked into his windshield. I had a helmet on and everything, but in all that time probably took about 2 seconds. But I remember every instant of it, to where
It's
the
slow motion.
experience, yeah, the experience seemed to last a very long time. And then, you know, waking up on the pavement with cars racing towards me, and trying to bring myself to my feet, you know, the whole experience was less than 5 seconds. But yeah, like you, so anyway, the point is though that of course, if you're at work, time can seem to drag. And if you're, I don't know, at Disneyland with the kids, you know,
Totally
an
connected.
entire day can go by in a blink of an eye. Yeah.
Just asking you, I know that obviously as flat earthers we all view Christmas as a different time now, but it must have been a bit hard over Christmas being shoved in there for weeks, and over New Year. That must have been a bit hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucked. But you know, honestly, the experience in terms of that, like, it was actually kind of a blessing, because there's a lot of really decent people in there. The majority of the people are decent people that I would hang out with, you know, regularly. Nice people, open-minded, most of them, not all of them. But yeah, like, so honestly, I wouldn't want to spend the holidays with anybody else other than my family. But yeah, it sucked. It did suck. It was pretty bad. We had to sign up if you wanted to go to church services or whatever days in advance, and luckily I was able to sign up for the Christmas Eve thing, and it was nice. Like, they put on a video, for about 30 of us at a time in a little area, and it was nice. Like, it was that was nice.
Can
But
I
yeah.
ask you, on your private phone calls, even though that I found really weird, that every day that you were in there, they charged you $3 for being in there. Do you get that back
Yeah.
if you like found innocent? Do you get that back, or you still just have to pay it and it's flat?
No. So the way that works, and this is just, I believe, just a Florida thing, or maybe just a Seminole County thing, because it goes county to county. So there is no sort of consistency from county to county or state to state for sure. But so, okay, when you get intake, so that means when you get arrested and they strip search you, and a lot of places hose you down and delouse you, with cold water, and it's cold.
Really?
um,
Oh.
and then they give you an orange jumpsuit and nothing, like no socks, no long john shirt. You have to buy that stuff extra through the commissary, which might take you 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get. But so anyway, that intake process, where they hand you they dress you up and they hand you a roll of toilet paper, and they give you a little tiny 2-inch long toothbrush and all that. It's not much. It's just, bare necessities. And some places you're lucky if you get everything, and it takes quite a while. But anyway, that costs you $20. So if you have any cash on you, they will deduct $20 right off the bat. If you don't have cash, then your account's in the negative. And so,
So basically, you go to prison and you've got to get an account.
yes. So when they intake you, they fingerprint you and process you in, that costs $20 off your books. And then every single day it's $3. And if you have any sort of medical call or like a sick call, that costs you $5 or $10. And so, in my case, like, by the time the first week rolled around, I was negative like $50, because I had a couple of medical calls, and then of course the processing and the $3 a day. And so my family put in $50. But so the way they do that is they will deduct, if you have a negative balance, they will deduct up to half of any cash that goes into your books. So the $50 turned to 25. And then the next day normally would have been the day that I ordered my commissary. But because of Christmas, they didn't do commissary normally that week. They skipped a couple of days. So I couldn't even place an order. So by the time Christmas rolled around and I had another my first order was for $8.50. So I was able to get a pair of socks, a hair tie, 2 bags of M&Ms, and I think that was it. It wasn't much because this stuff's kind of it's not too expensive, but it's like $1.80 something for a regular little bag of M&Ms, which that's not bad, right? It's not like I guess I was kind of expecting them to charge $5 for something like that, right? The way they do everything else, like the phone calls and stuff. But so anyway, so that was my first order, and then my family put another $50 on my books. But by that time, I was negative, 30 something. And New Year's also did the exact same thing that Christmas did. So they shut down the commissary or canteen or whatever for New Year's. So my second order would have been $13 and some odd cents, but on New Year's Day I was extradited, and it was kind of funny, like because I guess this was God's way of letting me know that he hadn't forgotten about me, right? So during my visitation with my wife, which is an hour out of the, it's 1 hour or less. It's usually like 50 minutes. But right in the middle of it, they on the New Year's Day, they called me in. The guy came into the visitation room and told me to pack my stuff up. I was leaving the facility. And that's the odds of that happening, because see, the way that the thing set up, I was really worried about being able to call or let my wife know when I was extradited, because when they extradite you, you can't make any phone calls at all. It's a security risk, they say, and they don't let you know ahead of time when you're going or nothing. And so the fact that that happened during the visit, which there's 2 possible visits a week with a single person, and that's an hour each. So if you do the math on that, right, the odds of you getting called out for your visitation are like 1% or something. Like, I don't want to get that wrong, because then everything else we've said in this conversation must also be wrong according to the trolls. But hold on, let me get out my calculator. But I think it's about 2% or something. Maybe I'm way off.
You were lucky in a sense, even if it cost a lot of money, because everything had to be reverse charged to your phone at home. But you did ring out a few times. I mean, that bit, at least people could hear you and you could ring out. But that must have been really weird. Every 5 minutes.
The way that worked for Florida, or I guess for that county, I think that's state by state. The phone systems are. Securus is Florida, but it's a different company for the Carolinas. But so, okay, when you call, it's not reverse charged. When you call someone, they have to set up an account with a debit card to take the calls. And if they preload their account with money, the calls are much, much cheaper. It's only like $3.50, which is crazy, but it's much cheaper, because if they don't load up a prepaid account, then they pay for the call when it comes in, and it's like $7.50. And so, if you do 3 calls in a day, you're talking about $25. But so yeah, like that's how that works. And yeah, it was just crazy, because so all right, there's 7 days in a week, 24 hours in a day. So that's potential 168 hours. So if you do 2 hours, which is the possible visitation hours, right? Once a day, twice a week for 1 hour, 2 divided by, what did I say? 168? Is that what I said?
Yeah.
I think that's so. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's 1.2%. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 1.2% chance that would have happened. So, it really, I would say the positive side of this whole thing is it really does make you appreciate things that we take for granted. And so I think this day and age is probably not such a bad thing, looking at it from that perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it was really horrible hearing it all happen to you. As you know, we did try and help you our bit. We had a hangout on your behalf. And
Yep.
that's Bling Bling. She was desperately trying to sort this out, because obviously Mina didn't know much about live streaming. So
Yeah, I tried to give her some crash courses and it's really hard without the ability to share the screen and show somebody something. So yeah, like it was frustrating, but we got it done. And like without you guys, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So like, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And
yeah,
you
well,
too,
it was
Bling Bling.
horrible to, but I told you I looked into prisons, and it just seems that prisons are a money-making machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're making a fortune. And there's even private companies now, for-profit corporations that have basically lobbied their way into position where they get to leech off the taxpayers for keeping people locked up, and they incentivize judges to keep people locked up, and they, where there's new prisons being built everywhere, because this is when there's, and it's a shame because when you introduce profit into things like corrections and the medical industry, it's just going to breed corruption. And these corporations have a much bigger voice than any one or 10 or 100 people, because they have the lobbying power. They've got deep pockets, and we all know that voting doesn't write the laws, the lobbyists do. And it's a shame, but yeah, that's the way it's going. And what can you do, right?
On that hangout that I was there, the first one you had when you'd got out, you were talking about a person that you'd met there, and all basically he did was he accidentally drove up the road the wrong way and he was being deported. Have you heard any more from him?
No, I haven't. I haven't. And I tried to help him out as much as I could, but if you don't have your phone numbers, like everything's in your cell phone. If you don't have your phone numbers, it would be very difficult to do anything. Because he, couldn't call his roommates because he didn't know their phone number, and even still, like a lot of cell phones will not accept the calls from, from Securus or from whatever. There's just certain cell phones are not set up to accept that sort of call, and so yeah, like you're basically screwed. Um, and in South Carolina, I don't know what the deal was, but everybody's court date was going to be like the end of March, and this was the beginning of January, and so the guy more than likely is going to sit in Spartanburg County until the end of March. Now, the only sort of silver lining that I kind of told him to pray on, this is a Muslim guy, by the way, but what I told him to pray on was the idea that, okay, his work van was towed and impounded. Okay. And so the telephone number and the name of the company is all over the thing. You would think if the tow company is doing their due diligence to get paid, they're going to contact that shipping company, and that courier service or whatever. They would have Ahmed's emergency contact information. And so I asked him, who did he put down as emergency contact on his application? And after a little bit of translating or fumbling around with the understanding of that, um, he said that it was his girlfriend. So hopefully, that's a long shot, though. You got to count on the Spartanburg County to do their due diligence, to have the impound lot call his employer to let them know they've got their truck. And then the employer would have to do their due diligence and contact his emergency contact and let them know that he was he was in Spartanburg County, because he lived all the way in, I think, Alabama or something, and he drove back and forth, and he'd be gone for weeks at a time, or like days and days at a time. So it might be a week or two before anybody even knows that he's missing, right? To even start worrying. And yeah, I mean, that's crazy. But, they say that we're supposed to have this right to being innocent until proven guilty, and that is just a big fat myth, let me tell you.
Well, you're
Because
treated the other
innocent,
way. You're treated as if you're guilty.
you're treated worse than murderers and rapists. Because see, murderers and rapists that have been sentenced and they're off to prison, prison is actually a million times better than county jail, from what I've been told. I've never been to prison, but I've been to plenty of county jails, okay, at this point in my life, to tell you a little bit about the quality. And so, from what I gather, so like, okay, in county jail, you're basically locked up in a cell most of the time. Although in general population, they have sort of dormitory areas that are, of course, locked up, and you're there. It's all very cramped and small, and like dozens and dozens of people in each block, and you potentially can go outside for 1 single hour of the day. But if your rec time for that day happens to be in the morning, which it almost always was, at least this time of year, it was just.
Hello, John? Oh,
Am I still there?
yeah, you're back. You disappeared for a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
I just asked
Oh,
you
sorry.
one question there.
Okay. But
Larry. Oh, just very quick, Larry in the chat room. Obviously, I don't know your plans and what you're doing, but he just wanted to know, are you going to the meetup in North Carolina in April?
that is the first that I've heard of it. But I don't see why I wouldn't. God willing, I will be there.
So, okay, Larry, I asked for you. And just asking, so what's happening with you then? What's happening for the future with you right now? Are you just taking each day as it comes?
Oh, with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing everything I can. It's a struggle, let me tell you, because we don't want to get into it, but I'm just working and praying, because we're up against it. Being out of commission, completely out of commission for a month, can really negatively affect your life. Let's just say that. Any longer, and I don't know, everything would have fallen apart at the seams. But at this point, it appears that things are salvageable, but maybe not. I mean, we're teetering. The future is grim, but we have faith and love in our hearts, and that's all we really need, right?
Yeah. Are you still sort of in the honeymoon period for coming out? Because obviously your voice sounds a bit different when you've had everything taken away from you, and you just sound
Yeah,
a slightly different person now, John.
it's only been 11 days, you know, and so yeah, I'm still sort of readjusting and still sort of surprised to be able to go outside and look up at the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, you said on that hangout, you in what was it, 3 weeks you were in there, you only saw the sun twice.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, twice, because well, it's when you go out to the recreation yard, as they call it, it's like a 30-foot diameter octagonal shape with like 40-foot cinder block walls on every side of you. And so you basically have like the eye of a telescope view at the sky. And unless it's like exactly, 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. or whatever, then the sun is not visible. And if you went out in the mornings recently, it was cold, and when you're used to it being 100 degrees every day and 100% humidity, 45 or 40 degrees is very cold. And so in the mornings when the sun isn't above head, there's no sense in going out there and sitting out there for an hour, right? And so, yeah, and even if you did go out there in the morning, you wouldn't see the sun for maybe but 5 minutes if you're lucky, because it would creep up over the edges, right?
So, and you weren't put on in a room on your own. You were with other people, were you?
Well, yes and no. When I first got to Seminole County, my mother was actually a corrections officer there for 20, 25 years. She retired a few years ago. And so she had basically a stipulation attached to my social security number, to where if I was ever, put into Seminole County Jail, they would put me in what's called protective custody status. And what that means, basically PC, protective custody, PC means that you are locked down 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in a 6x9 cell by yourself, with no books, no pen, no pencil, nothing. Well, I don't think that's a rule. Like they could have given me books and stuff, but they didn't because I don't know what the deal is, but for the first 4 days I was in PC, the COs, the corrections officers, were just completely ignorant and just nonchalant, just didn't give a damn about me at all, nothing. So like if I asked them for a book, the answer was I'll check on it later, every day, every few hours for a day or two. And so like one of the things that I needed from the beginning was to be able to fill out my visitation list so I could tell them, who my visitors would be and like everything about them. And like I would ask every officer that walked by for days. It took them days to give me that paperwork that I could fill out. And so finally, I asked one of them I had never seen before, and she immediately walked like 10 steps, pulled a piece of paper out of the thing, and slid it through my door. And then I didn't have a pencil, and so I had to get like, and she had walked off, and before I had realized that I didn't have anything to write with, I was so happy to have gotten the paper, and I was like sleeping. Um, anyway, it was like the middle of the night. Anyway, she came back and I got her to give me a pencil like within the next hour or two. And so I filled it out, and another guard walked by and I asked her to take the paperwork from my visitation list. And she took it and crumbled it up and threw it away. And so the next day, I had asked to see a sergeant, and the sergeant came and gave me the paperwork that I needed to do my visitation list and to sign myself out of PC status. And so finally, well, no, I'm sorry. Actually, they moved me over to medical because at that point I was coming down with a really bad flu. And so they moved me to the medical room first. So this was after 4 days before because they processed me out of PC status into medical, and they kept me there for 3 days. I don't know why, but they kept me there for 3 days. And that was also 24-hour lockdown in a 6x9 cell with nothing, no pencil, no book, no.
I've got one of your other, well, not quite cellmate friends. I've got Dave Marsh in the chat room because you shared, didn't you, with him when you went to the conference?
Dave, what's up, buddy? Dave Marsh.
Dave
Yeah,
Marsh.
we're bunk mates.
Bunk bed mates. Didn't you have a party in his room?
Did we? I don't remember. Maybe we did. I don't know. No, I don't think so. We basically, like, honestly, the conference was so much fun. There was no reason to have a room party because you would just have a party right out in the parking lot. Excuse me one second. Didn't want to kill you guys with my residual flu bug here.
Probably something you've come out of that place. If that place was cold and all that, you've come out and then all the germs have got you.
Well, yeah, I can tell you about that too, but I did cover this whole experience, this recent super flu. I'm telling you, this thing was a monster, and I was able to knock it out cold, basically overnight with MMS. That's another story.
Anyway, you've got a solicitor, yeah? So that's how you managed to get out, yeah? Got bailed. Is that right?
Hang on one second. One second, hold on. Oh, the wind like was knocking something around here. It's just like really picked up windy here a minute. Anyway, what was I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying you got a solicitor or whatever you would call them in America.
Oh, yeah. So, well, I've got two. I've got one in Florida and then another one in South Carolina. The one here is a PD. It's a public defender, so it's state appointed. Although, I'd like to get a private attorney in Florida too, because, well, a public defender works for the state, and so that's not exactly. I don't see how it's not a conflict of interest. Like, you'd think that we would have lobbyists. Like, here's the thing. Wouldn't it be nice if we had lobbyists that were lobbying in order to get private attorneys that are simply funded by federal or state issued checks? Because, this idea that a state paid state hired and paid attorney is going to do anything but maybe cop you a decent plea deal at best. They're not going to take your case to trial and do anything spectacular. That's pretty much guaranteed, unless it's a high profile case. Then okay, but yeah, like basically the way that public defenders operate is they do their cases as an assembly line, more or less. Like they're dealing with dozens, if not hundreds, of open cases, including yours. And of course, a private attorney is going to actually focus and give a damn about your case. And so, but wouldn't it be nice if we had lobbyists that were out there lobbying to make it illegal to have these state-issued public defenders, because they're just a joke. They really are.
Yeah, it's probably because they're trying to defend about 50 people in one go, isn't it?
I don't see how it could be any less than a couple hundred, honestly, because they just take in so many cases every day. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to look into it. But yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't have hundreds.
Do you think it made it worse because obviously when you got picked up in Florida, you didn't seemingly know about the other one? So when the police look, it just was worse for you? Because I just find it really strange that by holding someone else's medication, it's against the law and you can go to prison. Like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. And well, see, here's the thing. I would have been out after 4 days because I was bonded out. But of course, because of that out-of-state hold, I had to sit and wait. And like, it was just a mess. I don't want to hash out all the details unless you guys really want to hear it. But I mean, it's an interesting story. It's educational, if nothing else. But maybe we should leave it up to you guys or your listeners if you want to keep talking about this topic, which is, to me, it's fascinating, and or we can talk about something else. Like, what do you think?
Okay, chat room, we're asking, what would you like to talk about? Would you like Jon to talk about what's happening in his future, or do you want to listen to him talk about what he's just been through? So just put it in the chat room what you'd like.
Yeah, because I got about 20 minutes, and I hate to dine and dash, but I've just got so much I've got to do. Maybe I can stay longer than 20 minutes, but I'll tell you, I'm struggling, and I
We
just
started
gotta
about 40 past.
prioritize.
Stay to 40 past, because then that'll be an hour live.
Okay,
You've only been
and
going
then next time we can talk about the future, and I want to get a video done this weekend, but I don't know. I don't want to rush through the video. You know what I mean? But I also can't spend eternity on every one. You know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
so far, Larry and Mango have put what you've been through, and Effie, well, Moray, how do you say that? Maori, Morai. They want the future. Sorry if I've said your name wrong.
So it's 50-50, huh?
Well, 3, so 2 say future now, and then 1 says future. So I'll tell you what then.
Let me.
Why don't you do a little bit of the past and a bit of the future,
Yeah.
and then
Okay. So I'll do the quick version. So okay. So when you're extradited out of state, you have two options. You can either fight extradition, which means you will continue sitting in county jail for up to 90 days, where the extraditing state has to get a governor's writ of extradition in order to get you. Or you can waive extradition, and basically you're just waiving your rights to fight the extradition and basically telling the extraditing state, come on and get me, I'm not going to fight you. And they have 10 days to pick you up. And at that point, after 10 days, the state that you're in has no reason to hold you, and they should cut you loose. And so without any sort of counsel, without any sort of legal counsel, put on the spot in front of a judge and a district attorney, I was told this information. And now, by the way, they also tell you that if you choose to fight extradition, the 90 days that you're there does not count for serving time in any state. So it's
really?
basically what's called dead time, right? If you waive extradition, then the 10 days that you're sitting there waiting, and you might just get cut loose if the state doesn't come and get you, you're serving time in that state. So like for those 10 days, I would have been, even though I was in Florida, I technically would have been sitting in South Carolina, and that would have counted towards any sort of, if I'm found guilty and if I'm convicted or whatever, and if they sentence me to jail, then that time would have been counted towards my time or
10
whatever.
days? I thought you were in there for 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, I was in, let's see, December 15th, I was in Seminole County. And then the first of the year, that's when they picked me up. But it took 4 days to get there. And then I sat in Spartanburg for a day or two. So I was out on the 8th, I believe.
Right.
So that's a little bit more than 3 weeks, right? I guess. So
Yeah.
you've got, a little more than 3 weeks. So, but anyway, okay. So I opted to waive extradition and not fight it because, I didn't like the idea of 90 days. And I figured that, they'd probably come and get me in a couple of days and I would be in South Carolina the next, the same day. It's an 8-hour drive, right? But here's the thing that started getting me worried. After I had signed away my right to extradition, my right to fight extradition, after I'd signed the waiver, I learned that it was actually 10 business days, right? And with the holidays coming, that really messed it up. So I was worried that they had until January the 8th to pick me up. Maybe I was out before the 8th. Let's see. Maybe I've got this all wrong. Let's see.
I can't remember which day that you streamed. You got out like
I guess it was.
in the morning or something, didn't you? You got out really late, didn't you?
Let's see. I've got my video list here. So I did. Oh no, because I did the stream on the 5th. So I was out by the 4th. Wow. Okay. So maybe it was a little less than 3 weeks. Let me look at a calendar. Hang on.
It felt like you were in there ages.
It seemed like it. Okay, so the 15th was a Saturday, 15th, 7, 14, 21 to the 5th. I was in there exactly 3 weeks. Yeah, exactly 3 weeks. Because I got out like the 4th at night, like after midnight at like 1 in the morning, right? So it was technically the 5th. Yeah. So it was exactly 3 weeks.
How come they waited till that time of day to let you out, just asking?
Well, because my bond was posted at about 11 or 11:30, and it took it was very quick. A lot of times you'll wait 8 to 12 hours after your bond is posted. It's
Maybe
crazy.
it was good that it came in late because obviously it was nighttime and things were a bit quieter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it was. I'll tell you, it was a nice surprise too. Because yeah, it's a horrible
Oh,
experience.
you didn't know, you mean? You just basically said, "Come and get your stuff. You're out."
Yep.
Really?
Exactly. Yep. And I still had I actually had a check for $13. I guess actually it was on a debit card. Because I guess it doesn't cost you any money for them to let you out, which is a good thing. And by the way, South Carolina is a lot better than Florida when it comes to that whole charging you money thing. They didn't charge me anything, so it was the $13 that I still had on my books in Florida. They actually, when I left Florida, they printed me out a cashier's check, which I signed over to Spartanburg County when I got there, and that money was put on a debit card for me when I was released. So, out of $100 that my family sent me for commissary, I spent $8.50 of it on the first commissary, and then I was able to keep $13. So out of 100, I got 21 bucks. They took 80% of my money for that staying there. Well, not 80% of my money, but 80% of the money that was on my books uh, for that stay. It's freaking criminal. I'm telling you, they are criminals. It is awful.
Like I said, I made a video and there was somebody I put in there called Richard Glossop because he's innocent and he's been on death row since the late 1990s, and they've actually had him right next to the room where they were actually waiting to take him in to inject him, and he got a stay of execution. Half an hour later he'd have been dead. And now he's doing he's getting a court case again together because obviously there's more information sitting in a policeman's garage, wasn't there, to show that he was innocent, and they could have already killed him. So I already looked into prisons, and it's all a money making thing. And
Well, and there's another story that was really interesting to me. There was a medical examiner, like a crime lab guy that was just crooked as a question mark, and he had been basically caught a bunch of times for falsifying evidence and just really unethical practices, and yet he was still like a head medical examiner for, I think it was a county in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, like finally, a big high-profile case. This guy was caught, falsifying evidence, and they had to throw the whole thing out and exonerate the guy who was, another one of these death row inmates. And there was a whole, like they went back and revisited a bunch of this guy's cases and found that, yeah, he was just absolutely crooked. He was given the district attorney and the police just slam dunk cases that were built on absolute falsities. And so, but even there's still maybe 80% of this particular guy's cases that he had a hand in that people are either dead, or sitting in prison. And, that's just one guy. I'm sorry, but there are psychopaths. 1 or 2% of the population is supposedly psychopathic. And some of them are going to be police officers and medical examiners and district attorneys. And so, the idea that we place so much faith in men to handle, our freedom, one of the most important things in life, I would say, as Braveheart would say as well. And it's just crazy. It's crazy that we allow
Larry put in the chat room that a lot of the prisons and that they're all privately owned anyway.
Not all of them, but a lot of them are. Yeah, it's criminal. It
Just
really is.
money-making machines.
Yep. Oh yeah, and from what I gather,
people in prison because they want to make money. And we
yep.
were sort of saying there's a lot of cases, sort of say late 80s, 90s, probably up to about, I don't know, the year 2005, 2006. It didn't seem to matter whether you were innocent or guilty. They didn't care as long as they got a conviction. And I just think, I said to you before we went live, that I think that all these cases need to be reopened and redone again because many of them now are being overturned anyway.
Yeah. Yep. And it's weird because when I was extradited with a guy who had been in federal prison for over 20 years, and he was going up to Pennsylvania, and this guy, he had been in prison for I think 25 years. And I got to thinking, I was like, he was in prison for armed robbery. But I got to thinking, I was robbed at gunpoint when I was closing a restaurant about 25 years ago. And I was telling the guy the story, and I was thinking, wouldn't that be odd if it was him? It was not. But the guy, and by the way, the guys, there was 4 of them that robbed the restaurant I was working at. Um, they got caught because they left. They weren't wearing gloves. They left a roll of duct tape that they had used to tie everybody up. They left a $20 bill, and they had left their fingerprints all over the doorknob on both sides. And so those guys were caught. And in Florida, if you shoot a gun during a crime, it's an automatic 25 years, and that's mandatory. So it's not like you might get out in 15.
People use guns then if that's your sentence for using one? Is it that people just forget at the time or they don't care? What is it that if you fire a gun, you're going to get and you get arrested? It's 25 years.
Well, the way that law went, and they put it into effect within the last couple of decades or so, last 30 years. It's a relatively new law, but at least in Florida, if you bring a gun to a crime, if you go rob a place with a gun on you, it's 15 years or 20 years. If you bring a gun with you to a robbery and fire that gun, it's 25 years. And what happened in this case, so I guess I'll just tell you the story. So we were closing up Mykonos, is a little Greek restaurant off of 434 in Altamont Springs or Longwood. And there was 3 of us there, me, Justin, and Augustino. And basically it's in a strip mall. So you've got the front of the restaurant and then, other stores right beside it. If you go out the back of the restaurant, it's like kind of like a break area with tables and no cameras and not really much lighting and the dumpsters. And you'd have to drive past 10 stores in either direction to get, out of this strip mall, right? It's like 10 stores long or whatever, maybe 15. And so we were at night that we'd have to carry 10 bags of garbage out the back, and we would leave the back door open as opposed to having to deal with unlocking it and opening it every time and then locking it back. And so we were just standing around. I was putting chairs on the tables. Justin was finishing cleaning up, and Augustino, who didn't speak any English, was back in the dish pit. And a guy comes in the back with a blue bandana on his face, wearing a black hoodie, black guy, followed by three other guys that were very similarly dressed, all in black, black hoodies, blue bandana, black bandanas on their faces, and Tech Nines in their hands. So these are like 9mm semi-automatic. Kind of looks like an Uzi, but it's like a Tech 9. So anyway, the first thing that crossed my mind was, oh, this is a joke. Like, because we were joking around, talking, da, 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 and I was thinking, oh, this must be somebody coming in to fool with us. So I got to trying to look at their eyes, and they started screaming, "Get on the ground! Get on the ground!" And so I did. One of them got on my back with a broom and put the broom across my shoulders and put his knees on top of the broom. Had a gun to my face. Told me to stop looking at him because I was trying to see him, and he put my hat over my face. And they did the same thing to Justin, duct taped his hands together. And at this point, Augustino was back in dish, started screaming bloody murder, and they were telling him to shut up. They were screaming at him to shut up, and he was shouting things in Spanish. And so I couldn't see anything that was happening, but all of a sudden the gun went off, and everybody went silent. And I thought that they had killed him. And so, like, they started screaming, "Where's the cash register?" And I told them it's over behind. It was like a stack of dish racks. And so they knocked it over, and luckily the key was in the register. Normally it would have been locked in the safe, and nobody there knew how to get in the safe. But the key was in the register, and so they opened the register, got a couple $100, and then they left. And they told us on the way out, don't get up, don't get up until a couple minutes or I'm going to kill you. We're watching you. And so they left. And like after about 30 seconds, which felt like about an hour and a half, Justin asked me, was I duct taped, which I was not. And so I got up, cut him loose, cut Augustino loose, called the police. And they came out, told them what happened. And yeah, the guys were eventually caught. It didn't take them long, maybe a couple of weeks. They were caught, and as far as I know, they were probably convicted because fingerprint evidence and such. There was, I don't know, but honestly, why would someone fire a gun during a crime? That I guess in that situation, the guy did it to shut up Augustino. By the way, he did not shoot him; he was fine, maybe a little rattled. I'm sure he had a headache because when you're back in that dish pit, it's very enclosed. It's not a big area, and not a lot of carpet or anything like that to insulate for the
Yeah,
sound.
and don't forget, shock will sort of come in later on, won't it? You might feel fine
Oh,
afterwards, and an hour later, stunk, the
oh
shock hits
yeah,
you.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like no, like it rattled my head, and I was 25 feet away, and I wasn't in the dish pit. And by the way, the detective that came out found the bullet, and I think they actually picked up the shell casing. They didn't find a
Yeah.
shell casing, but they found the bullet, and the guy said, "You guys are lucky they didn't shoot you with these because they were like really, really cheap bullets." And apparently, and I did not know this, and I can't confirm this, but this is what I was told by the detective, that those cheap bullets it would shatter into 1,000 pieces, right, when it enters your body. And so it's kind of like a little mini shotgun blast, and it's much more difficult to remove 1,000 pieces that each have a chance of severing arteries and such, than it is to remove a single bullet. So anyway, yeah, don't you love the
Well,
thought? And,
yeah.
when I was on the ground with the gun to my head, like I literally, I thought, okay, well, and especially after the shot went off, I'm like, okay, we're all going to die today, because you see it all the time on the news, and you think this sort of thing never happens to me, but um, it happens all the time, where they'll rob you and they'll shoot you, they'll just kill you. And I don't think that people necessarily want to kill you. I think a lot of it has to do with how you react to the situation. And I'm not saying ever that it's the victim's fault if they get killed in a robbery or whatever, but I think that if we would have tried to fight them, or if we hadn't complied 100%, as I most certainly did, I don't give a damn about that man's money. Take it all. Just leave me out of it, buddy. But yeah, I think if we would have fought against them, or tried to protect the register, they probably would have killed us. And honestly, if
What happened
Augustino
to them
hadn't shut up, they might have killed us, because he wouldn't shut up.
What happened to them then? Do you know what happened to these people?
I didn't follow it, but they did let us know when they were caught. And I imagine they were convicted, but I don't know. Maybe, if they had a good lawyer, they probably could get out of it, because that's the way it works. But I don't know. Maybe they were convicted, and maybe they were getting out soon. It's just weird. It's a weird thought, like sitting in the van with the guy that just did basically 25 years for essentially the same thing. Um,
Bit spooky.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know. It was just
Did
synchronicity.
you go in when you were like, obviously it all happened to you just before Christmas? Did you go like into shock with all this
Oh,
happening?
I couldn't believe I was still there. I couldn't believe I was in there for like 2 weeks. Yeah. I kind of resigned myself after into the third week.
Anyway, so that's the past, and we're glad that nothing happened to you the first time. So what's happening with your future now then, Jon?
Yeah, just working my butt off, and trying to. I don't know. I need a better job, like because I'm working through a temp agency, and sometimes I earn $12 an hour. Sometimes it's minimum wage, which is $8.50. And the hours, and sometimes they don't work you at all. Like, you get up at 4:30 in the morning and go down to the shop, and they don't have enough work for everybody, so you go home. But so I need to get a better job. The thing is, though, like, if you start a new job, usually they pay every week or sometimes every other week, and most places hold your first check. And so it's normally 2 weeks to 3 weeks, maybe even a month, before you get your first paycheck. And I just, I can't afford to do that. So I'm sort of stuck at the temp agency, for the time being, until I'm able to, to stack up some money and do something. But unfortunately, like, I'm, maybe I should play the lottery every other, week, pay $1 for a lottery ticket every other week, because I just don't see, I don't see how we're going to make it work. But God usually provides for us, so I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna have faith.
You're
And
still here, Jon. Yep, you're still here. You made it to here.
Yep, they ain't killed me yet. Oh, give me 1 second. Excuse me.
But obviously, you had a few hangouts for fundraising and stuff like that, so you obviously got enough money then to help.
Yeah, well, I was able to bond out and put down a down payment on my South Carolina attorney, he's charging me $2,500, and so far I've paid him like $350. But he is working on my case, and as long as I send him something every week, he should continue to do so. So yeah, but yeah, like he's seems to be pretty good. I spoke with him on the phone the other day, and he's feels pretty good about everything. So hopefully I just am able to get him paid off sooner rather than later, and keep the place and keep the electric on and the internet and everything. Because well, actually everything was paid this month. I was able to afford to pay everything this month, but the next month's right around the corner, and I don't know. I'm up against it, man. I don't know.
Yeah, we all are up against it as a whole. I think there's not many people doing that very well, or those that have, you know, in flat earth, we've got hundreds of businesses or thousands of dollars just sitting there, or pounds sitting there. So we're all feeling this pinch. And I think the more you get into flat earth, sorry, the worse your life gets. Is that
Yeah.
because we're stepping away from the globe? We don't want the globe, and now the globe life's working against us or something. I don't know what it is. But
Yeah,
just, you know,
like
money,
our whole society's set up on this deception, and so I think maybe there's something to that. Like we're going against the grain, and I think maybe it'll get worse before it gets better. But you know, maybe it's a test of our strength and our resolve. So, you know, that's the way I look at it. And what doesn't kill us can only make us stronger. So, got to have that attitude.
You've already been making a couple of videos, haven't you? We've already seen they put those out.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I've done one video and a few live streams because
Yeah.
you know it's just so much easier to do a live stream. But I am working on a video right now, and I want to have it out this weekend. But I don't know; it might be into next week before I get it out. But yeah, it's going to be basically I'm going to go over some of the arguments for the globe. And although I've probably covered these sorts of topics in the past, I'm going to try to take a little bit different of perspective on it, and hopefully you guys will like it.
Sure, it'd be great. Well, yes, we love Jon TheMorgile. I say, when you were like away, it felt like you were in there forever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I thought so too.
No, one of ours there, especially like myself. I said I've looked up prisons, so you know, in the UK it's just a little bit different. I'm not saying prisons are nice here. We don't have to face the death penalty in any state or anything or any county, and
Yeah.
so even if you get life imprisonment, you know, you're not going to be facing whether you're going to get death row or what. It will be life imprisonment. I'm not saying any of it's very nice. I'm just saying we don't have.
I'd rather you kill me, honestly. Like if I knew I had to spend the rest of my life in prison, I just shoot me for real. Like no lie.
I mean, in some senses, I hear they've got gangs, they've got systems working internally. You know, they manage to get everything that if you've got money, it seems it works. If you've got money, then you usually get off sentencing. And then if you've got money in prison, then you get everything you want.
Yeah, it's all about money. Like if you have money, you can bond out. If you have money, you can get an attorney. And if you don't, you can't bond out and you're stuck with a PD. And yeah, there's two criminal justice systems in this country. There's one for the rich and one for the poor. And you're right. I mean, most people are not doing very well at this point. Now, you have a handful of people that are doing very well, you know, spectacularly well. But I saw in the paper recently that I guess federal employees are not getting paychecks this week because I
Yeah, that's
reckon,
not very good, is it?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens with
Hey,
that.
John,
But
why were you in there? Did you flat smack?
I did, yeah, I did. And I wanna try to to put together a hangout with one guy in particular. But I've spoken to him on the phone a couple of times, and we're trying to coordinate something. It may or may not happen, but yeah, he doesn't live too far, so we'll see.
Mm. So what did the people like? What do you call them? Prisoners? Inmates? Did they know about flat Earth? Were they totally? Oh my goodness! What are you
No,
talking about?
no, like nobody had heard of it except well, one guy had heard of it but hadn't given it much thought. But yeah, no, like really nobody. Now, what's funny is here lately, since I've been back, you know, I wear my research flat Earth hat everywhere I go, and I've been on several different construction sites, and you know, some of the foremen and such are not opposed to the idea. You know, so it's
Well, that's
interesting.
good, especially if they're employing you.
Well,
Because
especially the ones that I've found that the ones that wear Freemason rings don't seem to oppose it much at all. So, who would have thunk, right?
if you went into work today and said, "Hey, everybody, I'm a flat earther," half the people are going to lose their jobs for just saying that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the good things about working for the temp agency is like they can't fire me for any reason. I mean, unless I do like absolutely stupid things. You know, the temp they can just do not repeat me to that job, and the temp agency will send me on something different tomorrow. But yeah, no, like they're not going to fire me for wearing a flat Earth hat. Like, you know.
Well, it was great to see you because obviously you didn't know you were getting out, and then suddenly I was going to go to bed because I was really tired, and then suddenly I saw the Morgile. I thought, oh, I'll have to watch this because obviously Mina had been doing some, and then there you were, and I was like, oh, but I said you were drinking the orange juice, and it was like the orange juice was just so delicious. You loved
Oh my
even the
goodness.
orange juice.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, like it's totally true. Like the food sucks. Seminole County food was actually not that bad, but yeah, I think it's just full of chemicals, and the drink definitely was. And so, any sort of cuisine, like even stuff that I didn't much like before, I'm just really grinding on. So yeah, there is a plus side to everything. I
Did you
always
just
say.
put a link in the chat room, John?
I did. I was just going to mention, if you guys wanted to send me a contribution, it's paypal.me/themorgile or patreon.com/themorgile. PayPal is instant one time, and patreon.com is recurring monthly, as little as $1 a month. So shameless plug there. Sorry.
I was just checking there because it didn't have a spanner on it. I'm sure you're spannered up, and I've given you a spanner.
Oh no, I don't. I don't see one on my end either.
No, you've given you one just now, so it'll come up next time
Oh,
you write.
okay. Okay,
Are
sweet.
you using a different account then?
No, I changed my profile picture. Like I
Hmm.
had a one that I took back in probably 2013. And I just took one in Denver, and I used that one. I changed it on most of my social media stuff, so that's why
Was
there's a
it?
new picture. But no, I
Was
didn't
this
change the account.
oh, okay, I don't understand why you didn't have a wrench, but you do
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
Just asking, did it affect you at all? Has it made you feel a bit depressed, or are you just going with the flow, or are you
No,
not
the
thinking?
opposite. Like the opposite of that. Like when you're incarcerated like that, when you get out, it gives you a fresh perspective on everything. Like I appreciate everything much more. So I think all in all, it's affected me positively, spiritually, not so much in terms of. Hang on one second.
Yeah, everybody's getting these colds and
Yeah,
that.
not so much in terms of you know, real world issues, but yeah, spiritually, I think it's been a positive thing. So,
You sound a bit different, actually. I don't know what it is. I can just feel it in your voice.
well, yeah, well, no, it's almost as if I'm losing my voice.
No,
But
apart from that, I do know you've got a slight croak in your voice, but your
well,
voice
no,
is.
like what happened was, okay, so Monday while I was at work, I had a flu hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it came on really strong, sore throat, cough, runny nose, fever, body aches, chills, and this was the first within the first hour. So this hit me like a ton of bricks, and when I got home from work, by the time I got home, I had a stabbing ear infection as well. I mean, if I grazed my ear with my finger or with anything, it felt like someone was stabbing me in the brain with an ice pick through my right ear. And so I did MMS protocols for a few hours, and by the third hour, the ear infection was gone. And the next day, I woke up, the sore throat was gone, the fever was gone. I just got residual because like my phlegm was in fluorescent green, and so this is
Ooh.
more like a residual of that. Yeah, my immune system kicked its ass by it started Monday, and my immune system kicked its ass by Tuesday. But you know, it hangs around with you until your immune system is able to completely clean out all the infection. But this was a super bug. I don't know what the hell it was, but it hit me like a ton of bricks, and thank goodness
Well, I've heard
for
quite a few
MMS.
people in America and the UK getting this. In fact, in the UK, people have been in bed.
Hmm.
In fact,
Well,
I went to work and the woman said, I've got to go to bed, I'm feeling really ill. I'm thinking, she said, I don't want you to get it. I was thinking, yeah, don't come near me. Just don't come, I don't want
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, well, see, this is the third time I've been sick in the last month. I got sick first week in Seminole County, and then I believe I caught something when I stayed over in Houston County, Alabama, because everybody there was sick. Everybody, the CEOs, everything. Um, and then now, thank God, I've got my MMS, which is, if you guys don't know, chlorine dioxide. Just look up Jim Humble and MMS or chlorine dioxide, and yeah, like thank God for that. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
So,
anti-parasitic, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, water purifier, and there's no sort of side effects. So I keep the stuff. I paid $25 for what I've got like 6 months ago, and it's barely halfway gone. So it's not like it costs much. And I don't tell people where to buy it or where I buy it. You can get the stuff anywhere. It's just sodium chlorite, 28% solution, and citric acid, 50% solution. Or you can use hydrochloric acid, 6%. But either way, so the end result is chlorine dioxide. And I'm not a doctor. Don't purport to provide medical advice. It's just personally, anecdotally, MMS has helped me with everything from basically regrowing my finger after I bisected it with a lawnmower blade on accident
Oh,
to
golly, I remember that.
this most recent thing with a super flu. And yes, MMS kicked its ass within overnight. So
Maybe your immune system was a bit down because you've been stressed out by being put away. And then I was wondering, you said you went like to 2 places. You said the first one was really cold. Was the second one like that?
Yes, yes. But Houston, it's like we went from Florida to Alabama, back to Florida, to Georgia, to South Carolina. And in Houston County, Alabama, it was not cold. It was actually overly warm, and it was filthy. Oh my God, I've never been in more of a filthy place. It was disgusting. And then Jackson County, Georgia, was actually it was almost like a Ramada. Like it was very nice. It's like basically brand new.
Basically, you got a tour of the jails.
Yeah, oh yeah. I did the jailhouse tour of the whole East Coast. I mean, yeah. Uh-huh.
So why did they pick you up to come back almost past and then go, oh, what do you reckon that was about? Or didn't you mind? Because at least I suppose you were traveling. At least you might have been able to see out a window. Was it all, was the van they took you and was it no windows in it?
Well, what we did was, yeah, there were windows. So it was like a regular sort of van. The windows were tinted, and within the back seat, it was like a steel chicken wire cage all the way around. So yeah, you could look out the windows, and they fed us like Wendy's and Burger King and Little Caesars on the way up. And yeah, it was, that was actually kind of nice. The people that drove were very nice. Like I would hang out with them on the weekends if still given the opportunity. That was actually kind of nice. But so yeah, the two, Spartanburg and Seminole County, were both very cold, like too damn cold, like uncomfortably cold. And the one in Alabama, the one in Georgia were actually, the one in Alabama was hot, and the one in Georgia was actually nice. Like
Just asking you, I mean, we've just said that most of these places are private and blah, blah, blah. But like, what did they treat you like? The actual guards and all that? What were they like?
well, you've got some that, I'll tell you, there's a special place in hell for them, and then you've got some that are actually decent human beings. But you can't hold it against them personally, because do you remember the study that they did at some Ivy League school back in the 70s, I think, where they randomly picked volunteers, and they put half of the volunteers in prison guard uniforms and the other half of the volunteers in orange jumpsuits, and they locked them up. And they had the guards, basically gave them free reign to be in control of them. And more or less, it's just a human nature condition, I suppose, that you give them a little power and authority over others, and they start power tripping. And they found in the study that the guards were almost instantly, within the first day, prone to abuse of the inmates. And even the doctor running the study ended up, after several days, because the conditions got just horrible. Like, people were going to start dying soon, and he had to take a step back from the experiment and say, "Oh my God, I've let this experiment get so out of hand that people are almost dying," or maybe somebody did die. I don't remember the details, but that he realized that he himself had removed himself from humanity for the sake of science, just as the prison guards had removed themselves from humanity for the case of this really quite silly authority that they perceived authority that they had over the others. And so they ended up cutting the experiment short. I think it was going to go for a month, and they cut it off after like a few days or a week, or maybe I've got the times wrong. But yeah, so you can't hold it against them. I mean, you give someone authority over others, and I would say 70% of them let it go to their head. Although, even the ones that are decent human beings, they still slam the door shut on you, and they still get to go home every day. And, again, my mother she retired from Seminole County. She was a CO there for years. And from what I gather and from what she's told me, she would treat the inmates with respect and humanity. But that's not all of them. I mean, not by a long shot. A lot of them are just horrible to you. Like they treat you like dog doo-doo,
So just because I know that you're going to have to go soon,
Uh-huh.
because you said that you were going to be here an hour and
Mhm.
don't want to, you got. What were the prisoners like?
Yeah.
Were they the same? Was there a hierarchy with you lot, or were you just stuck there and everybody was quite nice? I mean, he did say sort of that at the beginning, but if the guards are like that, were the prisoners like that or not?
I didn't have any problems. Everybody more or less got along. They were good people, man. Nice, decent people for the majority. And yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, that's who's in there right now as we speak, are lots of innocent and decent people. Yeah.
Okay, then. So your near future, you're going to be making videos. You might go to that meet if you can get to it. The one is
Yeah.
Carolina, isn't it? South
Yeah.
Carolina.
North Carolina's not too far. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything else that you're doing, or are you just taking each day as it comes and relaxing and sort of like, because it's probably not very nice
No
for you.
relaxing, no relaxing. I've been working like an Israeli
Working.
slave. I mean, so today, obviously today, but of course, right here in my little neighborhood, directly next door, they busted out the skill saws and hammers because they're rebuilding my neighbor's deck at like 8:30 in the morning. So I was, I was
Oh,
not thrilled about that because no, I mean, like my day goes like this. I get up at 4:30 and I get ready, go to the temp agency, and then usually drive a couple of people to different job sites, then go to work myself, usually 8 or 9 hours, then drop a couple of people off, and I'm usually up from 4:30 and I walk in the door at usually 5:30 or 6. So it makes for a long day, and I just don't have any spare time. I really what I enjoy doing is working on videos and doing live streams and such. But yeah, I've just got to do what I got to do for now. I mean, I don't mind working, but the minimum wage is just ridiculous. Like, work all day for $60 minus taxes, and yeah, and the
yes,
thing
I
is,
agree. The minimum wage is just ridiculous, and it doesn't cope
yeah.
with what they're doing. It doesn't.
Yeah, well, luckily, I am on a semi-steady job, so they might need it. Like they needed us a few days last week, and they may need us a few days next week, where I get semi-skilled pay, so that's like $12 an hour. So that's a little better. I mean, it's 50% more. But even that, that's nothing to write home to mom about. Um, yeah, and
Yes,
it's
John.
hard
Someone's
work.
got to say, they're talking about something else, Nimblehorse, but we're slaves. We're slaves.
Yep, damn right. But yeah, let me. I guess what I'll do is I'm gonna run because I'm gonna try to work on this video this weekend and see if I can't get it done and rendered before Monday morning. But if
Okay.
not, I'll get it done next week.
We say goodbye on air to the chat room. Can you and me just say goodbye off air? Anyway, if that's
Sure,
okay. Anyway,
sure. And hey, by the way, I see Utes there. Hey, Ute. I always like to holler at Ute. He's been around a while.
yeah, he's quite faithful in Sun and Moon as well. So hi, chat room. Chat room, thanks very much. John was just popping on to obviously tell us a little bit about what's happened to him and that he's out and everything. It's been really great as always. You know we love you, John. We're back later on with Flat Earth Dude because we're going to the Flat Pizza Party and then out to a Flat Smack in Hollywood later on, starting about midnight UK time, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon for that's 8 hours, isn't it? Yeah, for America in California. But anyway, thank you so much, John. We wish you best.
Love you guys.
We'll say goodbye off air, you and me, Jon, but bye on air.
Okay, love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Love you, John.